Join Jessica Smith on Lead Like a Girl podcast, where she defies odds, shares inspiring stories, and empowers women to embrace their inner leaders. Tune in for a transformative journey.
So we scheduled this lunch at the Cheesecake Factory for a Saturday afternoon with the executive and myself, my sister, the executive, and the senior director of sales and mobility all get together. We go to lunch, and he says, "So how can I help you?" And I said, "Well, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're thinking. And we just need a contact of someone who is a decision maker over that fleet here in the Atlanta market." He's like, "Done." He gives the sales leader the contact, and he takes it from there. One meeting leads to a next, and here we have a very large deal, the first big deal for the company's new business of mobility as far as the mobile cleaning and mobile maintenance. So huge win. And remember, I am just taking on a stretch assignment because here was my strategy. So I have this 2-year goal that I'm on to the next role to elevate myself to that next level. I find this place that is the future of the company, and it really is like a startup at this point. It's only a few people at this table. Nothing's put together. This is the first sales leader, and the team that I'm on supporting salespeople, they're very much so like anybody else is really wanting to have a brand that they support the larger accounts for the company, and getting the right exposure for them is important. And I realized that early on, and I said, okay, I am going to take full advantage of this. So when I sought out this other business unit that I wanted to be a part of, I wasn't going to do anything behind the scenes because I wanted to bring exposure not just to myself, my value and my work, but also to my leadership. Because again, this is part of the game. I'm calling it a game for lack of better words, but we don't have, I make reference to this all the time. There are some of us, we do not have this playbook. We don't understand the environment. We don't understand the game that's being played. We don't understand how to navigate, and we get left behind. We get left behind doing all of the hard work because we feel that we have to outwork everyone else around us, right? Because we're so grateful that we were given this opportunity, and all we do is put our head down and work and work and work and wonder why no one notices. You got to tell your own story. You got to tell your own story. So I went to the AVP of this org and said, hey, there's this mobility spot and I'm very interested in it. And I think it would be a great opportunity for this team to look at the opportunity to support them in the future. And I can certainly be a guinea pig for that. And I think that this is the perfect time. They just hired a sales leader. They're working on some pretty important initiatives to get this thing going. And I would love to have the opportunity to take on a stretch assignment with not officially supporting them, but giving them some support if you would allow that. And I think it would also bring you and your org some nice exposure to be part of what they're doing. And he loved it. Loved the idea. He said, let's talk about the accounts that you have, what your bandwidth is, and what time you can dedicate to spend to that. It was perfect. Okay. So now fast forward to this big win when it was not just a win for mobility, not just a win for me, but it also brought great exposure to the org and the sales support team that I was in. Okay. So, which by the way, later after me, that team now to this day supports mobility. And I'm just grateful that they gave me the opportunity to open that door for both mobility and for that org. And I tell that story all the time because guess what? That amongst many other stories. So this big deal that was won, this story was like headline story, right? And every time I told the story, guess whose names were not included in that story? Mine nor the gentleman that was the senior director who really did all of the work to get the deal closed. Once the deal was up and going, it was passed on to another team that was more focused on account management. So they own that account. So every time the great story was told, it was told on their behalf. And every time I told that story and they're like, wow, people would say, that's a great story. I mean, I knew we had that account and I knew that they were there, but I didn't realize that, that was you and so. Of course you didn't. We got to tell our own stories. If we don't tell our own stories, if we don't brag on our own successes, again, we'll get left behind. The story will be told, but your name won't be part of it. You have to be okay with telling your own stories. So it was a big deal. And I knew that now it was perfect time. It was perfect time. And, I did the job as a sales engineer, even though that was really not my thing. I found a way to enjoy it because I was able to bring value to this stretch assignment to helping out in mobility, but also the regional commercial teams that I supported because they knew that my background was leadership. I supported them in a little different way than probably they're supported today. And they allowed me to bring in my skills and support them in a way that helped them, give them what they needed at that time. And it also allowed me to build a lot of great relationships. And you'll hear me talk a lot about that because, again, going back to what I call this playbook and the rules of the game, and it really is about relationships, not just who you know, but who knows you. And so a lot of times we get into this, we don't tell our own stories. We don't brag on ourselves. We keep our head down and we just work hard and we get left behind. So building relationships and really having a heart to help others and also build a brand for yourself is really just, it's vital in this environment. So I had this 2-year goal that I talk about. And, I remember when I started on the team as a sales engineer in sales support, I wrote on my cubicle down to the date where 2 years would be, I served my 2 years. And that was my goal, is that I had up until that date to elevate myself into another role. And I remember only one person, and it was my guy, Dom, was like, "Hey, what's that date?" And I told him, I said, that's it. That's my date. That's my goal. By that date, that's the time I have. And for me, it is really important that everything has a time stamp on it. It's great when we set goals, but I'm all about SMART goals, and they need to be measurable, and they just have to have a date on them. And that doesn't mean that sometimes we don't miss the date for whatever reason, but everything has to have an expiration date for me. And I remember in the midst of all of this, and I could probably just, go through a whole episode talking about the season of COVID, the COVID season, and what that looked like and meant for me. But I remember that my time ran out in that season. And I was just so defeated and so frustrated. And Dom told me, he's like, "You need to calm down. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. So you might need to push off your date a little bit, but it'll be okay. Like, just calm down." And I remember telling him, I don't give a damn about a global pandemic. My goals are my goals, and nothing is going to stand in my way. You just have to keep it moving. And I want to say it was maybe 2 months after that expiration date is when I got the offer and the opportunity to move into a sales role. And of course, it wasn't the one that I thought I would get, but it was a foot in the door. And I said, I'm not going to get caught up in a title. I'm not going to get caught up in the pay. I'm going to focus on the opportunity. This is just the season, right? Everything is seasonal. And this was the season that I was in. And I was just grateful to have met my goal and my timeline. And so this is COVID. And I'm thinking, okay, I made it to the next move. So what is this going to look like? And I knew that I was putting myself in a position that was going to be very stressful. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be in mobility is because that entrepreneur in me that, remember Direct Buy was only a year or so into, that business when I got there. So there was a lot of creating and doing. Everything was just, okay, this is a new opportunity. There wasn't a lot already drawn out for us. And so you were very much so in this stage of innovation during my career. And even though it was stressful, I thrived in that environment. And I think this is where a lot of leaders miss the opportunity to really embrace diversity and inclusion, and why I'm so passionate about it. There is a reason why I thrive in stressful situations, because I'm a survivor, and everything I know from the day that I was born into this world has been a stressful situation. I don't know life otherwise. And I don't know anything else to do but to fight. So when you think about why people like myself, people from places where I'm from, the value that we bring in leadership or in other positions is because when things get tough, which they always do, we know how to fight. We know how to thrive, not just survive. So even though it has never been a fun journey, I just view it as one of my superpowers. And what I did not stop and think about is all the other stuff that came along with, we're in the middle of a damn global pandemic, like Dom said. But I didn't have anything to reference, right? Like, I didn't know what the hell that meant. So I was just laser focused on, I gotta keep climbing up this ladder. I gotta keep focused. Okay. Now remember, I'm also getting my bachelor's degree at this time myself. Now I get this opportunity to be in this startup environment. And I didn't quite think about, what is this global pandemic going to bring? Well, the first thing that it brought is 3 children, because Xavier was in high school, Devontae, my nephew, and Hayden in elementary school. What I did not calculate is that I would soon be homeschooling 3 children. Now, let me be clear. I don't want to portray myself as a single mom, and I know that there are plenty of single mothers that went through that by themselves. So I feel like there's like a whole episode that I can just spend on having conversations with moms that both single and not. Let's just be real. We took on most of the burden of this season. And I remember it was funny. One of the teachers, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the teachers were like, I'm pretty sure it was Xavier's teacher. She's like, all of Xavier's grades were up, all of them. And she was like, it's so amazing that, as far as like his work being turned in, his everything. Now, I don't know how it was where you folks are, but in the beginning of that season, this was not like digital learning, like it, evolved into. The beginning was very clear. And here is the curriculum: teach your children and turn in the work. That's what this thing was, at least here at that time. And I'm like, listen, remember when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher, but I never thought that the experience would come at homeschooling 3 children, because kudos to all you homeschooling moms, but that's not doing that. Not doing it. So she says, I would maybe love for you to talk to some of the other moms, like, what's your secret? And I remember telling her, so one of my secrets is I withhold food. And she's like, I'm sorry, excuse me. You do what? I said, I withhold food. So we have breakfast time and we have lunch time. And if they choose to sleep through breakfast time, then totally fine with me. You wake up and you get straight to work. And until your work is done, you won't have lunch. Lunch is not just this thing that at this time you go to lunch. No, it's a reward for finishing your work and being a good steward of your time and your day. And she laughed and she's like, okay, well, maybe we won't have you talk to all the moms. But, I told her, I said, the way that I have been successful, I've never been actually diagnosed, but I'm sure I have ADHD, and all of my boys have these same traits. The reason why some people may not know that if they know me is because in my early years of learning, I was taught a discipline where everything is very, there is a process, right? So in my house, we clean and we do laundry on the weekends. There is a laundry day and there is a cleaning day. And when chores are done, you know when it is expected for you to do that chore. There is a due time that it is done. And then once it is done, your work is inspected. And if it is not done properly and you want to choose to spend your entire Saturday cleaning the same toilet in the bathroom, then I'm here for it. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So, and listen, that has, again, been a superpower of mine. And that was something that was initially instilled in early years of discipline with my father having that military background, and then the direct buy discipline and training. Even though these were not military guys, it was still very military like. And that really served me well as I grew older. I continued to build my work and my life just around just specific processes in place to manage things. So, but I'm not going to make it seem easy. It was not easy. Again, the school thing was still new for me. It was a lot of work. I had been out of school for a lot of years. And when I think about how the hell did I do that? Again, I didn't do it. God did. When I think about 3 kids at home while doing my school, while starting a new job in a area and place that I knew nothing about, I didn't. God did. I can't. He can. And that's just, I can't tell you how much that really is the moral of my story that you will hear over and over and over again. That this is just faith that I can't do anything without him, but with him, all things are possible. So we made it into that new season of, now we're into digital learning. I learned how to be at home. And, during that time, especially for someone who was always on the go, always in the office, always working or networking, the time that I had, and I think this is a lot of people's story, to just stay in your homes and spend time with your family. I had never had that. Even my marriage, we were able to grow tremendously during that time, and that time of bonding with children that I had never had the opportunity to. So I was really thankful for the COVID season. I know, globally it was not the best time for the world, but I just embraced it and said, hey, we got to get to the point where we look at this, glass half full instead of half empty. So I'm just thankful for everything that it brought our family through and how we made it through. Also during that time, being in mobility, we launched a new product for a sanitization product for dealers to be able to still sell cars by disinfecting their vehicles. Again, launched a brand new product that was created. We had to market it. We had to sell it. And I was part of all of that. What an honor. So thankful for everything that I learned during that season. And when we launched that product, my biggest success story with that is my regional commercial partners and relationships. They really were the key to my success. I ended up closing a very large deal with the partners from regional commercial. And I really didn't do the heavy lifting of the work. And you know what's so great about that particular story of how I won President's Club and closed the largest deal for that product in the history of mobility? What's so amazing about that deal is Ricardo, shout out to Ricardo, he was one of the sales leaders at that time, and he didn't get anything from that. And, usually all of the other business units in the company, if you work for one business unit and you put in a referral or you collaborate, you get something out of it, whether it's, you have a sales goal connected to other businesses or a spiff, you get something. This guy got nothing. He didn't expect nothing. He knew he wasn't getting anything. And he brought that deal to me. And that one deal, one relationship brought me a President's Club trophy. And it's just, it's just amazing what relationships can do. And I'm just so thankful to be able to say that I have been able to form those type of relationships. And to this day, he knows that I'm always, there to help him in any way that I can, because that was really made a huge difference in my career. And in that same deal, I remember there was a woman from the comp team. That deal landed me a very large, largest commission check. And if I'm remember, I know it was over 50 grand commission check. Okay. Again, this is favor. This is supernatural favor. We were climbing our way out of a hardship. I'm really not earning a lot of money at this time. I'm just trying to get to the next. I'm trying to build a brand. I'm trying to prove myself as a sales leader. And I remember there was a conversation that was accidentally sent to me in an email. And the conversation was with the comp team basically saying, we're going to have to redo the goals because in this environment, we obviously underestimated the potential of the sales targets being hit. And I remember I was devastated because that's actually not what happened. Because the sales targets were really not attainable. They really were not. And it's understandable because when you have a new business, it's hard to know and create comp plans. And that's the danger in even being a salesperson in that environment, because they don't know what is possible. There's so many unknowns. But here's the thing. They did not underestimate the target, the goal, or the market. What they underestimated is God. What they underestimated is me. That's what was underestimated.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Lead Like a Girl. We hope you found today's podcast valuable. If you enjoyed our podcast, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on your preferred platform. Your feedback is crucial in helping us continue to provide high-quality content. If you found the content inspiring, we would like to encourage you to share this podcast with your network. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories and leadership insights on Lead Like a Girl. Until next time, lead with passion and purpose.